After listening to the video I made beforehand, I realized my voice was getting drowned out by all of the background sound from the arcade. It's a very loud arcade, and I just didn't realize that this program wasn't emphasizing my voice. I'm trying to do this as simply as I can, so that I can just record and send and not have to worry about it. And it became such a problem that I decided to just hold it off until I could figure something out. And the answer, it seems, is just don't talk when the video is playing, which is awkward, but it's the best answer I've got. Otherwise, I had to do a lot of editing, and honestly, I'm just not interested in doing that. It's a real headache, and I'm trying to do this as simply as I can so that I can get them out quickly, and you can enjoy them quickly. So let's go on. Day 2. And keep in mind, it's been several weeks since I've done this, and I've been doing a lot of stuff, so I may not remember every single little detail on the subject. But I'll try to do the best I can. So day 2. Day 2, I woke up and I was ready for the day, and I was kind of thinking about something, but I actually forget. And there's actually something I was supposed to mention to you guys. I remember recording the audio for this day, but people kept on walking in when I was trying to record and, saying stuff. And I just decided you didn't need to hear that audio. Day 2, I walked out and it was a pretty average day. I was at a different friend's place. They were within, a 2 to 5 minute drive of the convention center, so it was very, very quick. And I went out, and this is actually their steps, by the way. And I took pictures quickly, and it was the breakfast. Oh, and now I remember, the day before I had met with a friend who said, "Hey, I'll buy you a drink." He just wanted to talk, and I was like, "Well, I'm Mormon, I don't drink." And he was like, "Oh, I'll buy you a soda." I was like, "Fine, let's do this." And so we sat down and we talked, and he had this amazing, amazing conversation about the way we think of projects and the way things are done in the military. He works at the Pentagon, and I'm not going to give you any information about him, but he's a great guy. I mean, he was setting records for how many machines he was moving, and I definitely couldn't keep up with him. I feel bad that I'm not able to keep up with him and the other guy. Sorry. But anyway, throughout the conversation, we were going like, how do you deal with President Trump, who is a very, very quick guy? He can change things with a Twitter post. And, the military is very methodical, very slow at changing things, and they're having difficulties, keeping up with a president who can change that fast. And it's causing a bit of chaos in the Pentagon. And we were talking about it and stuff, and I'm actually going to send him some papers on the asshole studies I'm doing. And so, it was an epic, epic conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. And today, or Saturday, was the big breakfast. And breakfast is a chance to just kind of sit down with all the fellow volunteers, both heads and, just everybody who just spends a lot of time there is going to get this breakfast paid for by the convention. And the convention center, provides it, but they're asking to be paid and stuff. And I was actually told while we were setting up that they love us. We were the nicest people. We were the ones who had the coolest setup, and we were always helpful with them. And they were like, we want you to come back, so we are going to, help you out as best we can. So there was a lot of stuff with that. And so breakfast, I just sat down and people started sitting next to me and we had conversations, and I didn't get to talk to everybody. Sorry, Brian and his wife. I actually wanted to talk to you guys. I was looking forward to it. And he said, "Aren't you going to come to breakfast?" And I was looking forward to talking to you, but I kept on getting sidetracked because people kept on trying to talk to me. This is a thing that happens. The volunteers have all become, good friends, and this is our chance to see each other. That's how it goes. So we had breakfast, and it was a pretty basic breakfast. Eggs, fruit, potatoes, sausage, bacon, juice. And I've got to admit, I was feeling kind of nauseous afterwards, but that's just because I was exhausted. I had woken up early to come to this breakfast, and I had gotten to bed at like 1 o'clock in the morning. So I wasn't exactly awake. Anyway, I walked around and I played some games. Black Widow, by the way, is excellent. I actually prefer it over Robotron 2084, if I were being honest. It's very similar to Robotron 2084, only it's got some different rules and stuff, and it's a lot slower. And the lot slower part is what I needed. I enjoyed the game way more. Get off. And I would highly recommend it, though I don't know of anybody who actually will let you play it, or who actually has it. Also, beer pong is a ton of fun, and I figured out, some tricks to do with the balls to get them into the cups. How to position your hand and stuff. And I would recommend it. It looks very simple, but they've set it up perfectly. So I played Simpsons. And The Simpsons is a really fun game because you can just do a ton while you're playing, and there isn't a lot of, now that you've done this, you can get this, and if you do this, you can get this. It's all pretty direct, and because of that, it's a lot simpler. But for me, that was a lot better. Not to mention, Simpsons is a favorite show of mine. Past Simpsons, that is. And then we have Creature from the Black Lagoon. And it's exactly what it looks like. It's just a reference to all the old horror movies, and it's got its complexities, but I really enjoyed playing it. And I'm shocked at how many pins I was just like, oh, now I know how to play. Yeah, it has another sub level where you can play, but I never got to it when I played the game. And there's a lot of tricks to pull, spots to aim for. I can't give you any good details. And the raffle desk was looking pretty good. To be honest with you, there isn't as much stuff I want from this raffle desk from that day as other shows. Back in the day, somebody won a ultimate history of video games book, and I kind of wanted that one. And he was willing to offer it to me, but I was like, no, you can have it, But really, I should have taken it. Because, I don't have a printed copy anymore. I gave it to a friend, and that friend never gave it back. And now let's watch some Pirates of the Caribbean. By the way, this is before anything opened, so this guy was basically playing the entire time before opening. I don't think he ever actually got a ball stuck or a ball down. Anyway, the interesting part about this game is those discs you see in the center, they're all twisting in other directions, and since this is a prototype, they actually added extra discs. And there are other parts that just won't show up in the game, or in the release. So this was an extra special game. I never got to play it because this guy was always playing it that morning. And, we'd huddle around him and watch, but he never actually lost the ball. Kind of annoying and kind of amazing at the same time. This guy was selling Qbert. So, just some displays showing off the digital versions of the games. And I got to play them later that night. But, if you check the Facebook page, you can actually see these pictures and read some of these documents and see how they're done. Space Invaders, I found out that unless you have it at a specific angle, you can't actually get the ball to those bumpers. And it was really annoying because I had to work extra hard. It's a very simple game, but you have to work extra hard to get the score. And because of that, it's a very, very difficult game. It's simple but difficult because you have to work extra hard at scoring. And this was the game that was at Emerald City Comic Con, and I could never play it because it was oh, I never thought of doing this. It was always down, and instead I had it open. I was like, okay, I'm going to play this game finally, and I found it to be quite difficult, actually. Oh. There I am. And of course, Champion Pub. I mean, how can you not love Champion Pub? This is my favorite complex game. You can do jump rope in this game, literal jump rope. You can practice on a practice bag. And if you punch that bag enough, you actually have a guy up here and you got to punch him with your pinball, with your ball. And it is a blast to play, and it's just a ton of fun to, watch the story go on as you play. So it's one of my all-time favorites when it comes to pinball. And here we have... Like I said, a ton of fun. And Monster Bash. Oh, I screwed up Monster Bash and the Creature from the Black Lagoon. Monster Bash has a ton of references to old school games. And if you look, you'll see Frankenstein's monster in there. You'll see other creatures, and they're just constantly referencing each other. It's a really simple game for what it is, but it was a lot of fun to play for what I could do. And then, of course, we have Q*bert, and there was kind of a comment by somebody who said that Q*bert is a game that you recognize and adults recognize without even thinking about it. And it's a very technical game. Or it's a very interesting game because it's a very puzzle-ridden game that is also kind of technical in the way you play it. And I'm not very good at it, but I could see that if I kept at it, I could figure it out better, and I could actually continue getting better and better and better. And that's the entire point of arcade games is, it's very simple to play, but it's hard to master. That was the description by Nolan Bushnell when he described arcade games. And that really describes Q*bert very well. Where you're just trying to grab onto, or where you're trying to fill all the boxes in and not get hit. Apparently there's a way to fight off monsters, but I don't know it. I also played some Time Pilot, and this time in Time Pilot, I did well. And that doesn't sound like much, but the last time I played it, I was quite bad. But this time, I was just like, okay, I'm going to figure it out. And I found out there are certain enemies that you can only hit with missiles, and then there are other enemies that you could only hit with, regular guns. And you had to know the difference, and you had to just learn to dodge around. You can't just charge at monsters and shoot. You have to just shoot and dodge as best you can, and eventually you're going to kill them all. It's actually a lot like Robotron 2084 or Black Widow in the fact that you're turning around and you're shooting, but it's like really close up and you only have one stick to shoot with. So you have to think, okay, how am I moving? Where am I moving to? And is it best that I just dodge around these characters instead of do what I usually do, which is, run and gun. This Hydro Thunder I really enjoyed because it had all the add-ons to it. The seat rumbled and you kind of felt the power, and the speakers worked. So they actually had it working really well, and they were hoping to have a 4-player Hydro Thunder, but it just didn't work out. Anyway, I really enjoyed playing Hydro Thunder again, and since it's one of my favorite games, it's very simple for me to just be be like, go play Hydro Thunder. Idiot. Rush 20 Alcatraz edition is exactly what it sounds like. You're driving around Alcatraz Island in San Francisco to race others, and it's got a bunch of bonkers things to do. And honestly, I screwed up a lot. I kept on trying to take the side roads, but those side roads are a lot more technical than the other roads, and because of that, I kept getting slower because I'd crash. And so those are, kind of the gambles you have to take, and you have to be willing to, maneuver quickly. So this is the type of game where, you have to make very quick decisions, and I was not making those decisions very well. On the other hand, it is a very fun game, that's constantly throwing funny stuff at you and cool ideas and concepts right at you. So it's a fun game. I'd recommend it, but I was quite bad. And then we have Stellar Wars. If you haven't figured it out, Stellar Wars is a lot like Space Invaders in the fact that it is a very simple looking game, but you have to get the ball over to it. And I think there might have been a problem with the angle or something here, because it took forever to get the ball over to the spot that was needed. So it was hard to score, even though it was a simple board. Then we have Orbiter 1, and I think I showed you a video of it the other day, but this is not like any other pinball table you've ever met. In fact, I don't even know how you score, honestly. But you're hitting the ball, and it's kind of zooming around, and it can orbit those two little red things. Literally, it'll just circle around them, and then it'll touch, and it'll get thrown off, and then it'll spin around, and it'll maneuver and stuff. And it's honestly a great game, and it was for sale. But I didn't have $500, and I don't know how to fix a machine like this. This is a very, very, very rare machine. So I was just like, oh, I enjoyed playing it, but there's no way I can take this home. So, if you ever see an Orbiter, you should totally play it. Oh, $3,500. Yeah, I did not have that money. But this is an early Stern, and just a ton of fun, even though it's kind of, how shall I say it, artsy. Buck Rogers, is another description of, the more you play, the more you learn, the better you get. And, very simple game, sort of. Honestly, it's a very complex game, because it's like Space Invaders, only you're from the back view, and you can speed up, and you can slow down, and you've got, multiple directions to maneuver your character in, and you're just trying to get around without getting hurt. And there's, as I tell people who are about to play, in 5 seconds you will die. And they're like, oh yeah, right. And then all of a sudden, oh, I see. Yeah, you've got to, there's a lot of memorization and figuring things out to do with Buck Rogers. But honestly, this time, I figured it out enough to have a lot of fun. I think it's also because I wasn't as tired when I played it, and I had reflexes ready. So it really is one of those excellent games you should play, even though I don't know if it was ever released in the US. This entire section of the arcade is actually dedicated to games that you can't play because they're actually made in England. Let's see if this video works. Oh, okay. That is Cruisin' USA. And it's a classic cruising game. You're basically driving, and it's got ridiculous stuff thrown at you, and you just kind of enjoy it as you go. And really just a bunch of twists and turns and stuff. I've discovered that if a game has, a little manual drive, that the manual drive means it's going to be a more complex game, and if you choose automatic, you're just simply choosing it to be simpler. And I never got to play Cosmic Gunfight, even though it's a beautiful game. Just look at that. That's a really cool idea and stuff, but this is in the boneyard. They were needing to fix it, and I never got to play it. And, they had wall-to-wall games at the show. And, by the way, that's a VR off in the background. I never got to play it. And that was the one game I was like, oh man, I never had the chance to actually play. Oh, here's another angle. Oh, them. Okay, so this is the who's them, what's it? These are the Fast Pinball folks, and they design or they help people make indie games for arcades. And that means the cool steampunk game I showed the other day, and you couldn't hear my voice, but I was just like, oh, this game is great. The truth is, the other two games are just as fun, and it's just somebody else's design. Somebody else was like, I want it to look like this, I want it to do this, and I want it to do this, and Fast Pinball helps them create that. And I don't know if they've ever made it into the black, but they're happy where they're doing, and they help out a lot of people, so they're really cool people. Rob, in the bald guy, is actually one of the nicest guys in the world. He's actually helped us. The show what is it? Fix It get together and meeting was actually at his house in Gig Harbor, so that's to show you just how nice of a guy he is. And then off in the background, the people I was getting a close up of, they are special dealers for pinball machines, and that he's retired, and he just was like, okay, at my retirement, I'm just going to go and make money by fixing pinball machines, and he's been doing it ever since he retired, and he's like, yeah, this is great. My life is great. I've been doing this for 35 years, and finally I can do it on my own. And that sounds ridiculous, but it's what he's been doing. And he and his wife are just sweeter than sweet. So, they made sure to sit down and talk to me about, figuring out what boards need to do what. And he said, one of the biggest problems we've got is a lot of people just assume they know what they're doing, and they don't. And there's a lot of, theory about electronics, but not a lot of hands-on type of stuff. So he told me that his dad was actually an electrician in the Navy. The Navy? Yeah. I'll say yes. The military. And when he got out, he got a degree and started teaching electronics at university. And when this guy I was interviewing sat down and was like, okay, Dad, teach me electronics, his dad started to teach him theory. And he was like, no, I want to know how to use electronics. How do I, put cable A to cable B? How do I do that? And, his dad was like, oh, right, you want to learn practical application. That's very different from what we teach in university. And if I were to talk to my brother about it, who's a mechanical engineer, he's like, yeah, we learn a lot of theory, but practical stuff is something you have to learn very differently. It's very just hands-on and willing to get stuff broken so that you can get it right. And this guy, the picture you're looking at, this dog, the guy who sells all this stuff, he would get all of his stuff into a small car, just a nice hatchback type car. And, he might bring an extra table, a pinball table with him, and he would bring his dog as well. And I guess the dog passed away. And so, he's making a fund to help other dogs who have problems like this. And I think that's really cool. We actually had multiple service dogs with us, or at the show, so I think it's really cool. In case you're wondering, this is the view from the Kid Zone of Tacoma. I think this is an excellent view. The only problem is Mount Adams isn't showing up, or Mount Rainier isn't showing up, but other than that, it's a beautiful, beautiful day. And that is the mini Neo Geo, which I love. I love Neo Geo in and of itself. It is actually on my list. Neo Geo is on my list. And I got to play some, did I get a picture of it? No, I didn't. The Yo-Yo Master game, whatever it's called. I know I took a picture of it later on. And I got to play it, and it's a really fun game, and it's really easy if you have infinite lives. But it was a lot of fun, very simple game, just you hop and you can jump on characters and you can hit them with your yo-yo or your punching bag or whatever you're throwing out, and each attack has a different kind of way of attacking. And the only reason I stopped was I was on my knees playing the game and my knees started to hurt. And I was like, I should stop playing. And that's the reason why I stepped off. Otherwise, I'd have beaten the game. And Minecraft. This is Minecraft. Do you not see it? I also like that link that they drew. Not a very good link, but still a cool link. And, just the guy who built this, or who services this, I guess that's the word. His name is Oz. He painted the entire board, or this table, so that people could chalk on it, or could draw on it with chalk, and it could easily be erased. So he just put chalk next to it, and people were drawing all sorts of stuff. And some of it was like insults at each other, which I thought was hilarious. I saw that the last day. And if you see the dinosaurs, or the ladies in weird hair and stuff, it's entirely to promote this show, or this thing called Beads of Courage. And each little bead that you're looking on that child is actually about, a major thing that they had to do. Like they had to go see a doctor, or they had to, get their blood taken, or they had to have such and such done. So each bead is something that would be really difficult for, a 2-year-old to go through. And some of these kids, as you can see, have a lot of beads. To survive, they had to do things that most even adults would have difficulties with. So this is kind of a way to reference them. And the woman who was in charge of it had lost her child, and she said, afterwards I found this, and I was like, I wish my child had this, because she'd have this amazing necklace from it. And so they kind of went all out for our show. They dressed up as dinosaurs, or they had tiaras and stuff, just so that the kids from Beads of Courage, when they showed up, they'd have someone to talk to, and they could enjoy the show. So they were handing out free tickets to them. And this is the spaceship, Benny's Spaceship Adventure. There you go. Made by, is there a name in there? Yeah, Renegade Brooks. She showed her stuff at Emerald City Comic Con, and we just went, can you please come? This would be so cool. I mean, we're running a pinball and arcade show, or video game show, so, it would be cool to have this pure game here. And I don't think anybody was allowed to play, simply because she wasn't there to fix it. So we couldn't do that. And this is a magazine dedicated to Seattle pinball. And I sat down and I saw this and I laughed my head off. I wanted to get a picture of the guy drinking from the coffee and holding up the napkin, but I was talking to the folks who fix machines, and the guy was telling me so much about it that I was like, I don't want to end the conversation, even though the light was right in my eyes and I had to hide my eyes so that I could see everybody's face. But it was a really cool conversation. And I was telling you about it earlier, where they were totally, talking about, the past, what it was like to service games back in the 80s, and how, sometimes they didn't know who was trustworthy and stuff. And he had some stories, and most of his stories were how he had to figure out how to fix a game while he was on location, and he was like, I don't know what to do. And there wasn't any internet or anything to help him, so he had to just figure it out from there. Let's get another video here. If this was a movie, I'd have ended the shot with the guy's beard on the beard, and then I'd follow him over to like some girl, and they'd be talking like, "What do you mean you're dating someone else?" But that was just a pan shot. And so for the rest of the day, I just spent a lot of time near the other Lego pinball table, the playable one. And just check out our dress. There's also a suit you can wear, but I honestly can't find one my size. That's why I don't have it. Otherwise, I'd totally wear that suit. Even for one day, it would be fun. So I was at the pinball table and just walked around. And if you look, Chun-Li is doing almost the exact same thing right in this picture. I don't know if I timed it correctly, but I think I've got it. But anyway, both guys were playing Chun-Li at the same time, so I thought that was so cool. So I had to take a picture of it. And 6-gun select, the problem with this game is the gun. See that gun? The gun has a little button, and you have to press it with your gun. Or the holster has a button. And you press it with your gun. And if you don't press the gun correctly, it doesn't press the button. And so you're losing because your gun isn't holstered because it's not pressing the button. And that's really frustrating. And otherwise, this game would be a lot of fun for its ridiculousness. But I wasn't able to do that. And eventually, I just got sick of the button. So I kind of gave up at halfway. Rip off, you're trying to fight off other monsters from, taking your little stuff. It's a lot like asteroids in the way you control it, but it's got it's basically asteroids with a mission. And let's see that little swarm there? You're trying to protect it with your character, and you're just kind of moving around it, shooting anything that comes at you, and you don't lose until everything is gone. So there's a lot of buttons to press, and ways to play this game, but it is so hard, honestly. I could not maneuver correctly in this game. But there is something interesting about this game, and and about Quantum, which I actually really enjoyed Quantum. It's another one of those really simple games where, if I explain it to you, all you have to do is take your character and circle around the bad guys, and once they're circled around, they're killed. But if they touch you, you're dead. And so you gotta maneuver correctly, and all you got is a trackball. But there's something interesting about these boards. Oh, what is it? Oh, that doesn't actually answer any questions. But this game was really hard because I had to kind of maneuver the character and jump, and it wasn't always easy. Plus, it's also a shooter. Plus, it's also it's multiple games. But the interesting part about these games is that they're all running off of a modern board. Somebody made a vector board with all modern parts and stuff for old school arcade games, so you can play these games again without having to worry too much. And all of the vector games in this picture were off of these boards. So this is really cool. Oh, you can see, kind of circling around the enemy in that picture. And that was really cool. They don't have a lot of stuff for vectors nowadays, but vectors have some excellent games. So somebody made, I believe it's an FPGA, just for this, and I am so enthusiastic about it. I'm like, oh man, now I want to get a vector board. But I'm like, I can't even, fit a arcade machine into my house, so let alone multiple. Oh, which one is this? Oh, this is Macross. And it's a lot of fun because I had multiple lives on it. So you will die a ton, just constant enemies coming at you, and the only reason I could continue playing was it was on free play, so I could just hit play again. But if I were to be honest, if I only had quarters on this game, I would play it once and leave it alone because it is just too hard. Tekken 2, this is going to sound really weird, but I honestly got bored playing Tekken 2. I played it, and, the controls weren't very good. And every time, Nina got up, she tripped me. And every time I got up, I tripped her. And it really didn't feel like I was actually playing the game. And I just realized that guy is using a mouse. Let's Let's zoom in a little. Yeah, see, he's using a mouse and a keyboard, and he's actually checking his email. If you really want to know, that's just a computer there in playing that mimics pinball games. So I didn't enjoy Tekken, but that's okay because they've got new Tekkens, and I'm sure it's a lot better. But Tekken 2 was kind of boring to me. And oh man, I don't know the name of this game. And it it it's a fun one though. It's like Space Invaders, only you have a different kind of machine every time. If the first game, the first you'll have kind of a three-part. Let's zoom in a little. That's the joy of taking really high definition pictures is you can see more. Look at that backglass. Ooh, or look at that, whatever it's called, matinee. Just excellent, excellent. And the point is, you go in and the first part of the ship is the front, and it's got a very small laser and it's not very powerful, and you're trying to dodge around. But if it dies, the next time you come up to a major area, you've got to park or you've got to land each ship back onto the main ship, and you've got this super powered machine. But if that front part dies, you've lost that much firepower, and it plays like that. Then you have the center part, which has more firepower and is a little more maneuverable, but is also a lot bigger. And then the final part of the ship, the main part of the ship, is bigger, has the same amount of firepower as the middle part, and isn't as maneuverable. So you got to be really careful how you choose out things and what you're doing with it. And it was a lot of fun. It wasn't the funnest game down this lane, but I enjoyed the ideas behind it. Gyrus is another shooter. I mean, I'm not gonna. Oh, Gyrus is one of those kind of circle around games, and it was a lot of fun. Though I've got to admit, I had more fun with other games, but this one doesn't have kind of the vector look to it. It has more of a bitmappy look to it, and you're just circling around, shooting characters coming at you as they grow bigger and bigger and bigger. The woman in this picture asked me how to play, so I played a couple levels with her, and once we finished up, I was like, okay, I've got to go. I'm feeling kind of guilty for playing too much. And she's like, okay, I understand. And, we just enjoyed playing the game, and it's House of the Dead 2. It's exactly what it sounds like. You die a lot, but if you have infinite continues, it's okay. The acting is terrible. It's just a fun little shooter. And I enjoy it a lot. Oh, this one. Okay, this one is a special game. I actually had to wait to play it. It's called Total Annihilation. Doo-doo-doo. And it is totally an 80s style, I think the term is tape punk. And it's totally an 80s style game, all the lasers and stuff from that time. And the major way to score is to get your ball into that pool area. And you've got a flipper there for it. But you have to get the ball in there. And that is a lot more hard. That is a lot harder than it looks. So without being able to get it into there, your score goes a lot lower. So you have to be a lot more careful with this game. And oh man, I enjoyed playing it. It's just bright and kind of shiny. And I believe the next part has a video. Let's see. Come on. Let's see. Here comes the video. Yeah, it always had a line, so I actually had to wait to play this game. It's right up there with I forget the others. But it was a lot of fun, but it was in the Marcos area, or not Marcos, the other guys. Oh, I forget. Nitro Pinball area. And there was always a line for those games, so it was difficult. This is not Funhouse. This is the whatchamahoosit, and that's one of the best Fix-It guys we've got in the company or in the group playing it, and he could not actually get it to play, and that was really annoying. So watch this. Yeah, the plunger never worked. The plunger never worked. And the reality is this is the same computer I was pointing out that somebody was checking their email on. So, that's how it was actually working. And apparently they couldn't get the ball to move. And that was it. Here, have another shot. Yeah, everything changes, and each one of those things is actually just a screen, so it just changes as you need it. And yeah, this costs a couple $1,000s, honestly. But it's easier to maintain, it's just a computer, so you can update it, and I loved the Doom game on the other thing. And this is the wonderful, beautiful Rocky and Bullwinkle game, which can get complex if you wanted to, or very fun. But either way, it was an absolute pain to maintain. Things kept on falling off because it just needed a lot of extra care, and it just wasn't getting it, honestly. But it is a fun game. It's got lots of references to old school Rocky and Bullwinkle characters, and it has all sorts of targets and ways to score extra. I have no idea how to get multi-ball. In fact, I've never seen anybody get multi-ball. So it is a fun game, but I'd like to see it better maintained. That last bit had to be, was originally glued back on and then finally, screwed back on. It had fallen off a couple times. So that should give you an idea of all the maintenance that this one needed. But it was a fun game. If you can find it, you should play it. Oh, listen to this. Happy Chip. I kept on thinking it said Happy Jew last year when it was released. So I made sure to record it so that you could hear it. And I think it's okay for me to speak in this area, but I don't know yet. I need to test that out. And here it is. This is the Pinball FX being played. It's just a much bigger table arcade or computer playing pinball games, but it is, got much higher res screen and a lot more games. Yeah, and I ended up playing Doom, so here's a video of Doom. And yeah, it's got like 100 or so different arcade tables with references to all sorts of video games and actual pinball tables, and I think it's $5,000. So if you want to have kind of the feel of a pinball table, but you don't want to maintain a pinball table, this is actually a really good choice. I enjoyed it a lot. Oh, my hand slipped, in case you're wondering. And this game it was only fun for the last bit because I didn't know how to score and I kept dying. It's constantly throwing the ball back at you and in angles that will kill you. So it's a lot more technical to play, but once you can get to a high score area or in a high score way, you can score really, really well. And so that's kind of the style that it is. You can tell this is the late 90s, with the re-edited original trilogy and stuff. And oh, check out this.
I just think that's cool.
Yeah, I do. And I discovered that morning, Sunday morning. So this is the end of this video. This was Saturday night, and I did a ton of interviews, met a lot of people, played a ton and ton of games, and I look forward to explaining Sunday to you soon, probably right after this when I regain my voice. So, that was Saturday at the Northwest Pinball and Arcade Show. And probably for the rest of the week, I'm just going to be posting videos about my trip, and I'm also going to be talking about what I learned. So next week, expect to hear about, kind of the volunteers and what it takes to volunteer and the kind of ranking system. That's what I really want to talk about is kind of the ranking system and how that works and how each person has and each department and how they work so that you can kind of get a feel for that. And I will see you next video. Bye now.